Hello, my name is Mike Parietti. I'm running for Congress in the 17th District on the Serve America SAM party line, row H. I'm running as a moderate, open-minded, independent, with centrist political views and common sense values. But today I want to talk about one of the most important aspects of my campaign, and that's the fact that I'm only accepting donations from private citizens who live in the 17th District, and I'm not accepting donations from any political action committees or other groups or organizations of any kind. One of the biggest problems we have in this country today is the big money that has corrupted our system and our political campaigns. But the problem is particularly acute when it comes to these congressional campaigns, because these congressional seats hold so much political power that both sides on the right and the left go all out to try and influence the outcome of these elections. And one of the key problems here is the fact that it's perfectly legal for people who live in one congressional district on one side of the country to give donations to candidates running in other congressional districts far, far away from their own. And they can give the same amount of money to those candidates in other districts that people living within that same district can give to their own candidates. And this creates a real power imbalance. Because let's face it, some of these districts in Middle America, which may be more rural or semi-rural or suburban, do not have the same affluence as places like New York City or San Francisco or Washington, D.C. or Texas or Florida. And so what happens is these big donors in these other places that have political needs and priorities that are much different from some of these districts in suburbia or rural or middle America, they'll find a candidate to run in one of these districts that is more amenable to representing the views of New York City or California or Florida. And they will pour the money into that candidate's campaign, which gives him a tremendous advantage over, say, a homegrown candidate who's focusing on representing the political sentiments of that district in Middle America. And there's no way that that candidate is going to be able to raise the same kind of money that a candidate can if they're backed up by big donors in New York City or Washington, D.C. or any other big city. And it gives these candidates that don't necessarily represent the political sentiments of their district a tremendous advantage over the candidates that do. We looked at the campaign filings of all the candidates in this race. And all of the other candidates in the race are accepting donations from outside the district. But none of those other candidates raised anywhere near the amount of money that Mondaire Jones raised. And that's why we're focusing on his campaign. So what we did, we took the campaign filing from the Mondaire Jones campaign. It was filed on July 15th with a cutoff date of June 30th. We've created a graphic that will help you visualize this money flow into the 17th District and into the Mondaire Jones campaign coffers. This is, of course, the lower 48. These are the 5 boroughs of New York City, and this is an expanded version of the 17th Congressional District, which includes Rockland County, Westchester, which is divided by the Hudson River and joined together by the Tappan Zee Bridge. Look at a couple of things that will jump out at you. Mondaire is getting a lot of donations from the 5 boroughs of New York City. Every one of the 5 boroughs has given money to his campaign. Look at Manhattan. He's got $245,000 donations coming in from Manhattan, and that's actually more money than he's raised in his own congressional district. You've got $90,000 coming from Brooklyn, got Queens with $12,000, the Bronx has got $5,000, taking $62,000 from New England, $18,000 from Boston. You go all the way down the East Coast, Philadelphia, $3,000, New Jersey, $33,000 coming across the border from New Jersey. Washington, D.C., $102,000 from Washington, D.C., and I know that a lot of that money from Washington, D.C. is coming from political action committees based in Washington. Richmond, Virginia, Atlanta, $5,000. Money coming in from Florida. Let's go farther west. You look at the middle of the country, you got money coming in from Houston, from Texas, from Oklahoma City, from Chicago. I know there's actually money coming in from Detroit, but we didn't have room to put it on the map. You go farther west, look at the money that's coming in from California, right? He's taking $226,000 from California, which is also more money than he has raised from his own congressional district. And it's coming in from everywhere, from San Diego, 7,000, Los Angeles, 45,000, Beverly Hills, 8,000. Silicon Valley, he's taking $35,000 from Silicon Valley. I don't understand why a candidate on the far left, like Mondaire Jones, is taking $35,000 from Silicon Valley. San Francisco, 48,000, and all the way up the West Coast, money is pouring in to the Mondaire Jones campaign. And there's really not a major urban area or big city in the country that is not donating money to his campaign. And I think this is really significant because I think what they're trying to do here is people from the big cities and urban areas across the country are basically trying to silence what has historically been a more moderate suburban voice in Congress and shift our vote into the big city column. I can guarantee you that if the people that are making these donations have absolutely no interest whatsoever in the local concerns of the 17th Congressional District. They're worried about what's good for their district, okay? And the reason they're giving these big cash donations is because they think they're going to get a return on their investment. In other words, they're comfortable with the fact that Mondaire Jones is amenable to voting in a manner that is good for their congressional districts, but not necessarily good for the 17th district. And I think this is really reflected in his campaign. He seems very uninterested in our local concerns. And I understand that because he hasn't really been involved in the social political struggle that has played out over the past couple of decades here. And when he talks, he's talking primarily about national issues that are debated ad infinitum on CNN and Fox News and all the morning talk shows. But he seems very reluctant to address the local issues that are really impacting our quality of life in a dramatic fashion here. And I think that this is indicative of the fact that when he goes down to Congress, he's not really going to raise our local issues. Now, another thing that these campaign filings show, how much money the campaign has spent and where they have spent that money. And like I said, Mondaire Jones has raised about $1.7 million as of June 30th, and he has spent about $1.5 million of that money on his campaign. And about $1.4 million of the expenditures, or about 95% of the money, is being spent outside of the 17th district, right? On political consultants of every kind. Strategy consultants, fundraising consultants, media consultants. I've never spent a dime on a political consultant in every race I've ever run. I'm not paying political consultants or operatives of any kind in this campaign because consultants, they tell you how to position yourself, what your message should be, and how to posture on certain issues. Nobody needs to tell me that. I know where I stand on these issues because I've been fighting for these issues for nearly 2 decades. When I looked at his filings, I noticed that he has not donated any of his own money to his own campaign, not a single dollar. And so what that leads me to believe about the Mondaire Jones campaign is that it's largely an externally run operation. Okay? The vast majority of the money, over 80%, is pouring in from outside the district. When the money is spent, 95% of the money is being spent outside of the district. Is this what the kind of representative we want in Congress? Do we want somebody who is going to be so beholden to outside interests? Or do we want a representative that is going to be free to go down to Congress without the influence of any special interest whatsoever and to act and vote in the best interest of the 17th district? We need to understand the real implications of taking large donations from people in places so far away from the 17th district. Because one day you're going to have to pay the piper. You're going to find yourself in Congress, you're going to be getting ready to vote on a bill, and you're going to be getting a whole hell of a lot of phone calls from the people who made these donations. And they're going to be pressuring you to vote in a way that is good for where they live, not necessarily what's good for the 17th district. And in the end, you will be forced to bend to the will of these big donors because you're going to want to get reelected. In conclusion, I want to reassure voters in the 17th congressional district that if you vote for me and I am elected, when I go down to Congress and I'm getting ready to cast my ballot, I will only consider the voices and opinions of voters in Rockland and Westchester County. Thank you.